that is Tiati, Mogotio, Eldama Ravine, Baringo South, Baringo North, Baringo Central constituencies to monitor and observe key aspects of the election day processes and results, including opening, voting, closing, counting, and announcement of results. The roving observation approach enabled us to monitor multiple polling stations within the constituencies, responding rapidly to emerging incidences, and provide timely, verified updates on the conduct of elections. Backs of observers monitored the opening and setup of polling stations, recorded key findings and on standard online forms, and were required to rapidly report on the process to the data center. This statement is therefore based on verified reports from sample polling stations upon commencement of polls, availability of election strategic materials, and critical incidences filed as at 7 p.m. yesterday, and has so far observed the following. In summary, from our observation and findings, the Senate by-election was conducted in a generally peaceful, orderly, and transparent manner at all stages, that is voting, counting, tallying, and announcement in polling stations. However, the process was affected by reported and verified cases of electoral-related logistical weaknesses during the opening, high levels of assisted voting with incomplete secrecy safeguards, ballot secrecy violations, voter access challenges that led to turn away of voters, unauthorized persons in polling environments, improper queue management, especially at closing of polling stations. While these weaknesses did not fundamentally undermine the credibility of the by-elections, they reveal systemic vulnerabilities that must be urgently addressed ahead of 2027 general elections. On setup and opening, we observed the following. Ballot boxes were shown to be empty before they were sealed. Sealed numbers were recorded both by all officials as well as party agents. All the polling stations were easily accessible. Security was present in all polling stations. However, only one police officer was stationed at every polling station. All polling stations had the Kenya Integrated Election Management System as the KIMS kit. On the voting process, backs of observers reported that adequate visual privacy was not guaranteed in some polling stations. In one instance, the presiding officer advised the voters to simply cover their ballots with their backs rather than relying on proper booth positioning. In several stations located within school environments, observers noted that adequate visual safeguards were lacking. Observers reported low voter turnout in most all polling stations, reporting less than 10% voter turnout as at midday. Candidates and political party agents were present in polling stations where observers were present. Super agents, which included party and members of parliament, voted and vacated their polling stations. Closing counting announcement of results. Backstop observes that polling stations were closed at exactly 5 p.m. In majority of polling stations where no voters were in queue, largely due to low voter turnout. There were some stations that extended time beyond 5 p.m. to allow all voters that were already on the queue to cast their ballot. The procedure of counting was strictly followed, as the closing of the ballot apertures, building consensus, and eventual counting of ballots and announcement of tallied figures. Form 38A was duly filled by POs in majority of all polling stations, and agents were allowed to sign the results. A copy was issued to agents and one posted outside the polling stations. Critical incidences that were observed. Some observers were not permitted to observe the elections. During the opening of polls, some backs of observers, despite being fully accredited by IBC, were denied access in polling stations by presiding officers who demanded oaths of secrecy for observers as well as presentation of stamped IBC letters. This is contrary to the IBC observer guidelines and requirements for observers. Backsoft, with support from AirLock, was closely able to work with IBC officials, both at the headquarters and in the constituencies, to speedily resolve those matters. Breach of secrecy of ballot in some polling station setup did not guarantee 100% secrecy of the voter. In some cases, as mentioned before, some voters were motioned to guard their marking using their body postures. In some instances, voters took images of their marked ballots, which were later posted in social media, contrary to election regulations. Voters being turned away. A few incidences were noted in some polling stations where voters were turned away, mostly related due to lack of presentation of national identity cards. But of concern were the cases reported about in 5% of the polling stations where voters could not be identified by the KIMS kit. Overall preliminary assessment, our overall preliminary assessment of our observation at the end of voting announcement of results at the polling station indicate generally a smooth flow process in the conduct of the Senate by-elections with minor operational and procedural challenges, which include low voter turnout, KIMS-kit technology issues, weak safeguards on ballot secrecy, allegations of voter bribery, especially use of cash and alcohol targeting young people. Voter intimidation outside polling stations were also noted. Such challenges, however minute in their occurrence, are likely to affect integrity, credibility, and public confidence in these by-elections and future elections. Our call to action. Backsoft therefore calls upon IBC to urgently strengthen its operational preparedness by ensuring the timely deployment of electoral materials, including the KIMS kits, voter ballot papers, to all polling stations before the opening of the polling stations. The IBC must enforce strict compliance with assisted voting procedures, including mandatory administration and documentation of oath of secrecy of all applicable cases, and must take decisive corrective action against officials found to have facilitated breaches of ballot secrecy. The Commission should also intensify voter education on polling station identification, required documentation to vote, and voting procedures in order to significantly reduce the high number of voters turned away due to unavoidable information gaps. Backsoft further calls upon political parties and candidates to respect the neutrality of polling stations by refraining from direct or indirect interference in electoral operations. Parties must also take responsibility for conduct of their agents and supporters and should immediately discipline any individuals found to be undermining the integrity of the electoral process, including through facilitation of ballot photography, improper voter assistance, or dissemination of partisan voting instructions. Backsoft urges the National Police Service and all security agencies to strengthen proactive deployment around polling and tallying centers with particular attention to protection of accredited election officials, voters, election materials, and election observers. Finally, Backsoft encourages voters and the general public to uphold the rule of law by complying with electoral procedures, refraining from disorderly conduct in polling stations, rejecting inducement to compromise ballot secrecy, and using lawful dispute resolution mechanism to address grievances. Public confidence in electoral process depends not only on institutions, but also on the conduct and responsibility of all citizens. Backsoft is committed in concluding, Backsoft is committed in its mandate, will remain vigilant and diligent by continuing to monitor and observe the remaining process of the by-election, and will provide timely and objective reports and recommendations. Backsoft will issue a comprehensive report of the by-elections after its conclusion. Thank you so much.
Maybe you've said that there was a high level of assistance. What could be the cause of that? Is it illiteracy, according to your observation?
Thank you. The high level of voter assisted is the high literacy. We also note that in these by-elections, voter turnout was left entirely to most elderly and senior citizens in our communities and in our electoral polling areas. So we tie this to mostly illiteracy of citizens and also the limited voter education of citizens.
So, Socha, this election was free, fair, very viable, and that you can say it went well.
Thank you. At this stage, we are addressing the process. Remember, our report covers up to transmission or announcement of results from the polling stations. To that extent, the process was very smooth and entirely very transparent. We will issue a notice once the winner has been declared by the county returning officer.
Somebody is David Lele. As civil society, we noted that there is low turnout of young people, and so we want to encourage them. We know that voter registration is ongoing even after this by-election. They should register, then show up during the voting day. They've always demanded that they need better leadership, and so for them to exercise their right, they must show up during election. It was unfortunate in this by-election that few young people were able to vote, and so we saw the elderly and senior citizens participating. We want to encourage the young people to register and exercise that democratic right during the voting day by showing up during election.
Maybe what could be the reason why they are not
Um, from where I sit, I think young people did not take this by-election seriously. Probably they didn't see what is in for them. But as you demand for better leadership, for better representation, you need to show up during the election. So it is not only agitating for it outside, but you need to show it and demonstrate by voting. So I think young people need to show this and lead by example so that they don't just demand from the streets, but also they give their say in the ballot. About observers, I would wish to state that observers are election stakeholders. So IBC in its training of staff must ensure that they train them to know that election observers are not enemies, but they are stakeholders who want to ensure that election is done rightly. So when we see turning away of observers, it is not right. These are the people that strengthen and help IBC to strengthen the system. So we hope going forward that election staff, especially the presiding officers, will be trained to work and support the election process.
Maybe what lesson can IBC take from this election towards 2027 election, given that maybe shortcomings, given that commissioners are new, and they are going to conduct the election in 2027? What can they learn from this election?
So this election for us was also a litmus test for the IBC. We know that there are new commissioners, and we expect that they have picked lessons from the ground. One is that preparedness is key, and then securing the electoral process. We need to ensure that the 2027 general election will be smooth. There will be security, the election will be secured. citizens will exercise their right. We don't want to see citizens being denied because they are not in the KIMS kit. So we want IBC to work on those shortcomings so that in 2027 we have a smooth process.
There was a temptation by voters to take pictures of whom they have voted to.
Yeah, I think also voter education is necessary. We need to continue this, and civil society is here to assist the Electoral Commission. This is something that we need to continue educating our citizens to know the electoral guidelines, that it is not proper to take a picture of whom you voted for and circulate it on social media. So voter education is something that needs to continue between now and even as we prepare for the general election.
Thank you.
Maybe lastly, we can have a lady. We've seen scenes of violence across the country. Maybe you need to tell us something that probably happened that was different in the Baringo By-election, in other areas. Mbona Baringo ilikuwa peaceful and we have seen chaos a lot.
Unaona kila mahali ni vita.
We would like to congratulate.
Start with your name.
My name is Janet Nando Ngoli, the Communications Officer for Baringo Civil Society Organizations Forum. And we would like to congratulate the electorates for Baringo County for keeping the peace, for maintaining the order during elections. We did not see burning of vehicles. We did not see fights. We did not see leaders being hit by electorates and all that. And these are called to all the citizens, all the electorates out there to maintain peace. We would need each other tomorrow. We need each other in the future. We need each other beyond the elections. So the scenes that were seen outside Baringo, the scene that was seen beyond the borders is not very good scenes. To see properties destroyed, to see vehicles burned, to see blood shed, it is not proper. But also, I would want to tie this to voter education, because with voter education, mwananchi will be told the need and the necessity and the importance of maintaining law and order, of maintaining peace.
Maybe lastly, anything you need to say about the low voter turnout in terms of youth not voting specifically? You look youthful, so.
Most youth are not registered, and we would like to have in mind that Baringo County did not have registration happening when other counties were doing registration. So we would like to believe that in 2027 we'd see a large turnout of youth now that the registration is opening after these elections. So for those youth that are registered and did not turn up to vote, it's a call upon them. Demanding for leadership is one thing, and showing up to actually elect your leaders is another thing. So talk is different from walk. Walk the talk. Thank you.
I think we observe about the youths. You can start.
There is something we observed about youth participation in this by-election. Very few turned to vote, and those who turned up were turned away because they lacked identification documents. That is the national identity card. While we embrace the advancement in technology, it is our call to IBC, the Electoral Commission, to really move with speed to digitize everything. There could be resistance on us fully transiting to electronic voter registration, identification, and electronic voting. But according to our observation, we don't have an alternative. We have to move fully to digital elections. So it is a call to IBC to really consider the advancement beyond a KIMS kit towards identification and even electronic ballot for the for the voting. And this is the only way we will get the new generation to vote. Let the millennials be the last persons to present national identity cards during elections. And I think the law should be looked into this so that we can digitize elections fully.
Thank you, Chef.
Let's go.
So we also urge the IBC to embrace technology, because we realized during our observer mission that the youth came, but they came without the IDs. It doesn't mean that they don't have, they do. But the problem is they thought the system is digital. And these are digital people, they use social media, they are online. So we urge the Commission to upgrade the system to be fully digital so that the youth can participate. And again, we can upgrade it to ensure that people can vote at the comfort of their homes, so that we can have the youth participating fully without going to the polling station. We know maybe some of them don't have the patience of queuing in the polling station. So to get rid of this and ensure that we entice them, let us digitalize the system. Let us ensure that we get rid of the IDs. So long as they've done the full registration, they can vote from everywhere, and we shall have all the young people, the Gen Z, participating in election. Thank you.
Unless there is somebody who has something very bad. Baiti ya mwisho. Nani anaweza tupea baiti ya mwisho? Ya youth. Kwa niaba yao kindly nataka mtu mmoja bado